Welcome, everybody. This is Activities Across Grade Levels for Digital Learning. I hope you are somehow making it through this rather quirky time that we're in, you said, using the term quirky, and that you are finding ways to help your kids move along. I understand that you may be in any number of situations. Chances are very good that your schools have already closed, given the way things have worked, especially over this last week. And so you may well be in that space of like, how do I do this online teaching thing that we started 3 days ago? Hopefully these ideas will be useful to you as we go. You may be in other circumstances. A number of districts have said, okay, we're gonna like send everybody home. We're gonna like move the spring break forward just so we can figure things out and then start online instruction on such and such date. Any number of possibilities with that. If you would, in the chat, what I would like you to do is tell us where things are for your district, your school at the moment. So are you seeing, are you guys just flat closed? Are you teaching online? Are you teaching online and you were well prepared for it? Or are you teaching online, but somebody just threw you in the deep end of the pool? What might it be? So add those things to the chat as you go. Will you share the slideshow after this presentation? Absolutely. So everybody who registered for this, what I'm gonna do is I will write you over the next few days. There's like a whole lot of people, so it will take me a few days to do it. And I'll send you a link so that you can get the recording of it, that you can get the slides, and any other kind of cool pieces of advice I can pass along. We're out, handed out packets, but I've been digital since September on Google Classroom. Excellent. This is very much a time to use what you know. All right, so right now we're just flat closed. Hang in there. Many districts across the U.S. Wow. Okay. Holding patterns. Yes. So a whole range of things going on here. Please keep adding things. And as we go through the webinar, if you see something in the chat, Richard Byrne, welcome. If you see something in the chat where you're thinking, oh, I need to ask someone about that. In the chat, you can send a note directly to one of the people there. Where you can say, hey, could we connect offline about what you're doing, or offline? Could we connect webinars? Not for what we're doing, and certainly that's a good and righteous thing to do. All right. And by the way, one thing to remember is that all of these things were like, we're going to be closed until, and then they give you some date, like April 6th or March 30th, whatever it is. Take those dates with a grain of salt. In China, where they're well ahead of us on this, and they've done much more to stem the spread of the virus. They've been out for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right? So this may happen to us as well. But of course, it may end sooner if we all kind of follow these things. Still difficult. Anyway, moving on. Let's get things going. First of all, I got some thanks to pass out. First of all, thank you for attending. I think when we look at moments like this and we're like, oh my God, I just need some ideas. Hopefully these are useful to you. Additionally, I want to thank Richard Byrne of Free Tech for Teachers. Richard, toss a link in there so that everybody can get that. If they're not already, kind of knowing what you do, they need to. He sends out lots of great information, practical ed tech, free tech for teachers, and it's not just a link. He goes to the trouble of explaining these things, which I'm always thankful to see that with anybody. All right. I also want, whoops. I think I do that pretty much every time. Thank you very much. All right, now, and that's going to be something I'm going to show later. Part of the fun of all this is that we're getting used to it as we go. All right, now, right then, good. So, Illinois folks, all right, IDEA Illinois has put together an Ideas for At-Home Learning, right? And let me get that link into the chat for you, because there are a lot of people sending out a lot of different things, and it's important to find stuff that's where people have not just like tossed a bunch of links together, that there's really some meat to it. So feel free to give that a look as you go. ISTE, if you are not involved in ISTE's discussions in the ISTE Commons, I would encourage you to look at that. They have also started a site called Learning Keeps Going, which I think is a cool way to describe almost anything, right, that we're dealing with right now. FETC has done a lot to help promote what we're doing. So great crowd there. Thank you, Jen, for all that you've done as a part of that as well. So good to have you here. Nice to meet you. Not that we're actually shaking hands because, socially distant, right? But, you get the idea. Fist bump to the screen and all good. I hope that that as we finish this, that you will share ideas about how I can make this better. I think that's really important, that we look at these things and we say, I think it would be better if. Share those ideas. This is absolutely the time for us to be setting aside our omniscience, right? And being like, ah, good, you know, like that was a tip I needed. Wow, like this thing really worked. I'm going to get this out to my group. You know, those kinds of things are important. I'm a former high school teacher. I'm a former principal, including a principal of an online high school that I did in Texas in the O's when we were doing this under a state pilot project. Learned lots, right? And now I run, whoop, whoop, and now I run a little nonprofit Save the World gig called Next Vista for Learning. It's an online library of videos, and I'll maybe reference that a few more times as I go along, but please give it a look. It's all screen content, it's all free. My own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. All right, so there is that. Now, when we talk about the idea of like keeping the learning going, right? This is the time to know that for years, you know, we've been like, hey, you know, you should try this, you should try this. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. We're there. So try these things out, share what works and what doesn't. It doesn't have to work perfectly the first time. You are not responsible for doing everything perfectly the first time, right? So make sure that you are experimenting as you go and sharing ideas. Ask your students, you know, does this work? Does it not work? And if you are teaching younger kids, ask their parents. A lot of parents are going, oh my God, you know, like with trying to help with the educational thing. So make sure you're giving them encouragement as well. So a great video this week. I'll try to get that shared at some point as well. Now, how this is going to work today, all right? I'm going to give you two activities that I think are kind of cool and describe them across grade levels. So the idea is for people to be like, you know, so if I'm working with this age group, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to add those as I go. And hopefully as you listen to the different levels, you're getting ideas, even if you teach like this level and I just described this level, you're like, wait, I could use that for my people. That's the idea. All right, and of course, anything with regard to, you know, how tools work, remember to look for tutorials. Maybe I'll speak to that a little bit more as I go as well. This is very much a time where you should not be trying to add a bunch of new tools to your tool belt, right? Use what you know and use it as well as you can. Add as you go, but in a time frame that's comfortable for you. It's not helping anybody if you're like, okay, guys, 6 new tools, right? That's just not how that's going to work. So make sure that you're finding ways to be like, hey, I think I can do this way, even if that's just like email. I mean, whatever works, go with. What about my kids that don't have access? Yes, some kids don't have access. And if it takes, you know, coming up with a really cool plan that you can put onto paper and put in the mail, and it's not just a bunch of worksheets, go with it, right? You know, there are hard discussions about how to make sure that kids without access can keep their learning going, but do it. Sometimes people will be like, oh, for equity, we need to like stop learning altogether. Oh, right, like that's equitable compared to every other school that's actually going to the trouble of figuring out online learning, just saying. All right, so how are we gonna do this today? We're gonna look at we're gonna look at these different pieces. And one of the important things to know is that clarity is a big whopping deal, right? So remember that the instructions you give, not only do the kids have to know what it is you're talking about, you know, maybe you're putting screencasts together that allow you to emphasize that a little bit more and allow them to see your face, which is important, right? But it may be that there's someone helping your student at home. And maybe that's a parent, maybe it's a grandparent, you know, maybe it's an older sibling. It's perfectly possible that some parent, single parent family, the parent has to go to work. And so the 5th grader is helping the 1st grader learn, you know, and so your clarity in your instructions is big. One huge piece of advice, find a parent or two who can really help out. Send them the instructions ahead of time and get their feedback. Because if you can do it that way, you might be able to head off a whole heap of difficult pieces. Understand that as you look at these things, we're talking about stories. We're talking about the idea of a story of learning. Every time we teach anything, it's a story of learning. And the story is one you remember if it's compelling. And so finding ways to make what you do as a teacher, whether it's in person or online, compelling is, you know, big whopping deal. And so this first activity we're going to do has to do with stories about the school. So let's build into this idea, right? So I spend a load of my time at a high school up in San Mateo, Catholic high school, boys high school, called Serra High School, Junipero Serra High School. Great group. They somehow turn a bunch of 13-year-old knuckleheads into good young men by the time they graduate. Impressive now. But what we started last year, see, they had the same problem that everybody has, which is everybody knows about what our sports teams do and our performing arts our groups do, and, you know, like what the robotics club did at the competition, because that's all public. But it's hard to tell the stories of a school when when those things are happening in the classroom, and teachers don't know how to say, this is this good moment that happened, maybe because they're afraid that that others will think they're bragging or whatever. But this, it's important. It's important for every school to tell these things. In the chat, here is a thing I would like you to do. In the chat, what I want you to do is, on a 1 to 10, how well does your school tell the stories of what happens in the classroom? All right? Jump on the chat. If you're like, wait, he asked me to do something, jump on the chat, right? 1 to 10, where are you? So is it a 5? Is it a 2? Darla kicks in, she says 5. All right, 2, 8. All right, so there's going to be a lot of numbers coming in. All right, and it's a huge range for sure. I don't think I've seen anything above an 8 at the moment. Is that right? Oh, Twitter, 9. There you go. Very, very cool. Keep adding stuff as you go, and add ideas about how it works, because if you're going to tell the stories of a school, right, you've got to be doing it a lot of different ways. Well, you see, we send something home in the kids' backpacks. Not a bad move if people read it, but just don't limit yourself to that, right? So let's look at ways this can be kind of all the more interesting, all right? And cool is a big piece of this. So what this comes down to is, a year ago at Sarah, we decided, okay, we're going to find another way to try to get kids to talk about great moments in their learning. And the way we did that was to launch a video contest called One of the Coolest, the One of the Coolest video contest. So how does this work? So students were asked to finish a sentence or finish a thought, starting with, one of the coolest things I've learned at Sarah is, and then a video 30 seconds or less to explain what that was, right? So they could use any kind of visuals they want, as long as it was their own media. They can't be like downloading stuff and doing stuff like that. That was not the idea, right? So we want them telling their stories, and we got some great stories, right? So matter of fact, like, here, for example, is one of the videos right here. I'm going to mute this as it goes. But what happened was, this kid's in an environmental science class and learns, everything's connected. And that just totally blows him away. So he puts together this video. There's normally audio, right? I should get this link in here. Okay, give me just a second. And so anyway, he puts this together. It's it wins kind of a little thing at the school as this really cool video. It gets entered in a contest that my nonprofit runs. Now, first, let me say, I do not judge like the winners of these contests. Other people do. It wins, right? And so that's really cool. So the dozens of teachers around the world that watched the different finalists and chose the winner. I mean, like, that's really cool. That becomes a thing for that class, the environmental science class, to tell about stuff like that. That's good stuff. All right, so how do we do this across grade levels? Let's talk about it. So we started with one of the coolest things I've learned at Sarah. If we're talking about the littles, let's think along these lines. The first thing we want is to get like the person helping the kiddo, and I will say parent, but as we've talked about before, that could be any number of people. All right, to do something to express a really interesting moment, like a great moment about school, something they really like about school, and to start expressing that, drawing pictures, right? Parents could use a phone to video the kid saying, I like this. It doesn't matter the way, you just want to gather these things. Now, the teacher's job is to gather. That could happen through any number of systems. If you're in Google Classroom or Seesaw or whatever it is, you can pull things in that way. A Google Form could do it if you're sending it out via email. You might be using Flipgrid, and your parents have got the app. It's free, and they're getting little recordings of each kid saying something that they think is really cool. That's actually really good too, especially because the kids get to see each other, which they're missing each other, right? We've only been out of school a week. They're missing each other, right? This is not summer break. So as you do things like this, that becomes like the information for as the point of departure for discussions at home about what's good about school, and in summaries that you give as well. So emphasize, right, that different things about school are great for different people. And one of the great things about school is not only finding what you like, but learning that different people like different things, which is a good lesson. Let's keep going. All right, so upper elementary, how might this look? So ask students via any of these systems, right? Think about a moment when they saw another student doing something that was really, really cool. The idea is to celebrate lots of different kids' good moments, right? Oh, I thought it was really cool when Nate explained blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, that's the idea. And then they write it up, paper, online, it can be any number of tools to make that happen. So they put that together, and then the teacher can gather these. This would be a great time for Flipgrid, by the way, and getting these little videos in a space where you see like these short videos, record app, right? Flipgrid.com, good tool. Somebody toss that link in there for me if you would, right? And recognize that in doing this, there may have been some really cool moment a couple of months ago that everybody remembers. So, like some kid did something, everybody's like, that was awesome. So it's possible that a load of people, thank you, Ms. O'Hara, for putting that in, that it's really cool that kid did that. And so everybody zeroes in on that. And you might get like a bunch of stories about one thing. That's possible. But hopefully, as the teacher, you're like, okay, I'll take one of those stories that everybody shows, but these other ones that are out there as well, you just gather a few that allows you as the teacher in something you put together, like a screencast you put together. Oh, a lot of people, noted that moment when little Nate did blah, 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 right? Or whatever it is, and talk about that. Let that be your lesson, and you're giving kids the chance to talk through these things. Remember that any learning you do, to whatever extent you can say there is learning associated with screens and there's learning not associated with screens, that's good, right? Because we don't want kids, especially the younger kids, spending hours and hours and hours, in front of screens. By the way, you shouldn't be doing this either. If you get up for a walk every now and then, that's just not a bad thing, right? So hang in there with what we're doing. Middle and high school, slightly different. We're going to actually follow the model from the One of the Coolest Video contest as we do this. So let me describe some of the pieces as we go. Like I said, video, 30 seconds or less. Only media of their own. So pictures they've taken of artwork they've done or artwork they've created online, their own media. Why nothing downloaded? Well, because, you kind of want to work your way towards a different kind of, like a more sophisticated thing that could be the subject of another webinar, just saying. All right, so there is that. But also what you want is to get them working with a short time frame. Never give kids video projects without a time limit, because they'll just keep going. And it can be brutal. You can imagine, right? So, you're like, okay, you're doing videos about like, your favorite thing from the last couple of weeks, and somebody's learned about photosynthesis, and the kid sends it to you, and you're looking at it, it's like, oh my God, this video is 20 minutes long. And you're in touch with the kid, and the kid's like, yeah, I added some action scenes. You're like, oh my God, Kung Fu, it's photosynthesis, that kind of thing can happen, right? So keep it short so that kids can keep this stuff, a little bit more focused as they go. Now, especially if you're having them limited to using kind of their own media, they can do all this at home, and they can do this thing using some great tools. So for example, Adobe Spark, a free tool. And you might say, wait, you just said Adobe and free in the same sentence. Does that really work, right? It does. Adobe Spark is a wonderful free tool, and a kid could actually look up different icons in the program and add those things and talk about those things that way without ever having to appear on camera. Kids can make videos without appearing on camera, just like that World is Vastly Connected video we looked at a little bit earlier, which is nice. If you want kids doing, kind of more sophisticated stuff, the best online video editor I know is WeVideo, and they have actually made like the full version. I just tossed this into the chat, the full version available for teachers who are dealing with COVID-19, right? So you fill out a form at that thing. Feel free to look that up. Very cool stuff. Now, leaders, understand that as you work with things like this and you start getting some really cool videos, share them with each other. All right, the teachers need to be seeing the cool things that are happening elsewhere. You might be sharing these with the community, right? Because you're going to need a lot of good. It has already started. The news stories about online learning, distance learning is the worst, right? I saw this like in the New York Times, right, where they're usually a lot more careful about such things. But this stuff happens. So we need to create stories that show where good things are happening. Will it be as good as in person? Most of us are used to in person. We don't get a lot of time doing online learning. Most folks are like that. So it's gonna be some work. So if we find good things, we got to share it. So think along those lines as we go. Second activity. The second activity is called Stories of Service. So service to others, right? Community service, things like this. Those people, those organizations who make life better for others. So how is this going to work? Well, with the littles, the idea is that what we're doing is we're zeroing in on acts of kindness. Kids should be able to say that was an act of kindness, right? That was really nice, and to be able to think about those such that if the same kind of moments arise, you've maximized the chance that they will act similarly. These are important as we go. Teachers, as you introduce this, you might be creating a screencast. And by the way, if you've never created a screencast, oh my God, learn to create a screencast. That can, and you can do that in a lot of tools, right? Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, QuickTime on an Apple. You can do screencasting in Zoom, right? There are just a lot of ways to do this. How do I do it, right? Go to YouTube and like do Screencastify tutorial. You're on your way. If you need more help on that front, let me know. Happy to help. So littles are how they're going to be introduced to this. Teacher says, all right, so there was this moment when somebody did something nice for me. So you start by telling a story. And telling that story is important. Then have them watch a video at home. I've got a video that I would encourage them to watch as a part of our service via video contest that we do every year. Let me get a link into the chat. And this one is called Heart Houses. And this one is important because Trisha Fugelstad in Illinois, Trisha, if you're out there, awesome. And her kindergartners and first graders did a project where they made these very cool little ornaments, and in making these ornaments, they sold them. Cute kid. All right, and as they made and sold these ornaments, they raised money for people who had been affected by a terrible storm. And so they tell about this as they go. You know, they show the different things they did. You can see how this is not only a great project for kids. This is amazing PR for a school, right? This is the kind of thing that should be shared, not only because the community needs to feel good about the school, but because people might get involved. They're like, how do I buy 10 of those, right? Whatever it might be. So very, very cool stuff as we go. And by the way, there's so many great moments in that video. I just make sure you watch that video before you get going on this. That link is in that thing. And remember, you'll get the slides. The next slide will have that as well. But they should see these things and talk with each other and talk with parents. You talk with each other in terms of, you know, however you're getting, you know, groups together using, say, Zoom or whatever it might be. Talk with people at home about moments when they can help somebody else. And I would encourage the kind of upshot of this to be like, all right, kids, your job is to figure out something you can do at home and help with, and you should do it for each of the next 3 days. Give it a shot. See how you do. Some parent in the group is like, 3:30, fine, whatever, right? But get the kids oriented to that idea that they are people who do kind things for others as well. Now, let's keep going as we talk about this. Upper elementary. So upper elementary, I'm going to put another video up. This one is called Helping Each Other, right? And this one actually has no dialogue, but it's just these examples at schools of kids doing different things, noticing moments where they can be helpful to somebody else. And that's a big deal, right? I mean, you know, when kids really begin to see these things as opposed to it being described to them, and when they see it happening, it's much more likely that they'll know that this is a moment when such moments arise that they can be helpful to someone else. And so as you work with a project like this, you want them to kind of be in a space of like, what would that look like at our school? So to imagine a story that could help younger kids at the school. What would that look like? Okay, share those. So you write it up, add it in, you know, like a doc, a Seesaw, Classroom, Schoology, whatever you're using, right? And it just get those things so that they're in a space that that you as the teacher can go through and say, all right, what is it we're looking at? And I would encourage you to ask them to do this where they're focusing on one thing, right? So they're not being like, okay, you know, here are the 20 things that could happen in our school. It's just one thing. And their job is then to say, what would a video look like with it? So they're kind of coming up with a script, right? And they imagine, okay, well, you know, imagine that, you know, we introduce the janitor, and the janitor's on, it's like, hey, you know, I love helping the kids and having a clean school for you guys. And then, like, you know, a kid walks across the playground and, you know, tries to toss a piece of paper into a trash can, misses and ignores it. And then another kid comes along, sees it, no big deal, just picks it up, tosses it away, and that's a good message. And then finally, like, you know, there's this message and somebody verbalizes it, right? Don't litter and help Mr. Smith or whoever, right? So that those kinds of pieces can become the stories of how you build the rapport of your students and you build community at the school. The idea is to get them in the space of, you know, this is something we can do. You may have go-getter students, right? Who can actually try creating a video, something like that, if they've got some help if they know how to do it, whatever. To put those kinds of pieces together and see and share them and just talk. You know, what do you learn from those as you go? And we've got loads of videos in our service via video section that you could look at as well for more. And if you need help on that, stay in touch. I'm happy to do it. All right. So middle school. Let's talk about middle schoolers. Now with middle schoolers, what I want to do is I want them to begin thinking very specifically about not just what makes for service to others, but also what makes for a good story. So they're really beginning to have these kind of interesting questions about media. I am putting in the chat right now a link to like the 38, I think it is, project finalists that we've had doing our contest over the years. And give those a look, right? They're interesting, but with the kids, give them the link to that page and say, pick 3. Pick any 3 videos. You're kind of intrigued by the title or the little image of the video. Pick any 3, and your job is to make a couple of notes when you watch each one, and they should note 2 things I liked about it, 2 things that I thought could be improved, right? 2 strengths, 2 weaknesses. And to talk that over with each other, if you've created space for them to like share ideas, you know, in classroom, maybe like a discussion space, anything like that where they're doing those kinds of things. The idea is for them to get into a mode of being able to articulate one of them. You know, so one that where it's like the best insight they've got about how to improve something or why something is compelling. Use something like you know, phone video or Flipgrid and get them to talk through that. The idea is to practice it maybe a bit with each other, practice it, you know, online with each other, practice it with people at home, whatever it might be, to kind of help them say, I thought this was interesting. I watched this video. I thought it was interesting for this reason, right? And you know, whatever else you want them to add to that. And as they do stuff like this, capture their ideas about what makes for compelling videos, because in doing that, you're going to end up with a list of things that you can bring back later. If they make videos, you can be like, did you follow the rules y'all came up with, right? Which is a good thing to do. If your kid's really into this, they can just kind of go on and do the same thing that our high school students will do. So with high schoolers, you know, understand that we're kind of taking this completely to the next level. So the idea here is that the kids are going to make a video, and they're going to make a video in such a way that that it tells about the work of others. I'm going to put a checklist in the chat. The checklist is one that Nate Gildard at the Nagoya International School put together a few years ago for helping his students. And teachers, you don't have to be video makers to do this, right? You can have them create scripts, and if they know how to make the video, all good, right? You know, there's just a lot of ways to go about this. Now, group the students like 2 to 4, and they should choose a cause that matters to them. All right. So once they've chosen that, find 3 organizations, nonprofits that address that cause in some way. And at that point, they begin to think, okay, if we're reaching out to those people, if we want to contact them and say, we want to make a video about what you do, what might that look like? Now, ideally, this is, by the way, going to be about like local nonprofits, so they're getting engaged in their community. I think that's a cool thing. But in trying to think about what the message looks like, they're going through a writing exercise, right? The writing exercise is, how do you do formal language, you know, business letter, you know, this kind of stuff. And in putting that together before they send it, because they're doing some research, right? They're going to the different schools, they're trying to, or organizations, and trying to figure out, all right, like, you know, name, website, they're writing this stuff down, right? This is part of the assignment. You know, name, website, contact info. That could be a contact us page. It could be an email address they can write. It could be a phone number to call. You know, hopefully these organizations are still there. And most nonprofits are in the space of being understaffed, overworked, and underfunded. So if kids, you know, like contact them and say, we'd like to make a video about what you do, it's a one brain cell decision about making that happen. So feel free, right, to get them kind of in that space of understanding they can do it. If they've looked at each other's messages, some templates arise, and they can then, you know, take those and make some good things happen with them. So the idea is to establish a contact, right? And this is going to be somebody who can give them feedback. You know, we sent the script to this person suggested this and this and this. Before they do that, it's even better to like have other groups of kids take a look at it as well. And then they create a draft of the video and they send it to that contact. They say, oh, well, we like it, but, right? And probably this is someone who could give them good visuals for their video. So they learn in that initial letter to say, if you happen to have footage or photos that we could use as a part of making the video, we would love your permission to do that. You know, something along those lines. Bring in, you know, the best ones. You know, have like the opportunity, even if you're still online, right? Have the opportunity to have everybody celebrate what gets put together. This is a chance for a lot of kids to shine. If you've got kids who are really good at, say, making music using Soundtrap or, you know, .com or GarageBand on a Mac or anything like this may be a great moment for them. So we hope that you will give that a look. And before I finish, a couple of different things I want to mention. I'm going to show you some promising resources, but I want to mention a few things. Next week, this is not up on the webinars page yet, but it will be soon, right? Next week, I'm going to do this again, although I'm going to do it with one activity instead of two to try to keep it shorter. I have a favor to ask for everybody who's still with me and in the chat. How long for you is the right length for a webinar? Given what we're doing right now, given what we're trying to learn, like how many minutes is about right or what, right? So toss that in. 30 or less, 30, all right? 30 to 45, 30 to 45, all right? Keep tossing these in, 30, 45, 30 to 60. That number 30 just keeps coming up, right? Under an hour is good as well, all right? So yeah, so my goal, I mean, I'm certainly not gonna meet it today, but my goal is to keep it to 30. So I'm gonna move to like 1. I'm bringing in, bringing a special guest who's gonna make this happen next week. A wildly accomplished tech person related to how tech can work with littles, right? So all good there. Depends on if it's interactive, or perhaps if the person is wildly caffeinated as they do it. Woo! All right, that kind of thing. Good info, thanks. I also want to just give you a few resources before I go. So the What Moms Love page actually shows some really cool things. And if you're kind of like, oh my God, my kids need to do something active, then have them take a look at that. The Cincinnati Zoo Home Safari. Shout out to Richard Byrne and Free Tech for Teachers who put this out there, right? Every day, the Cincinnati Zoo is putting out like this this home safari, you know, 20-minute video or so about some of the kids there, which I think is really, really cool. And then there's this template, okay? Nadine Gookson in Indiana. I want to show you what she put together, right? Look at this. Look how cool this is, right? So when you follow that link, it'll do a forced copy, so you'll get your own template, right? And look over here on the left. She even like explains it, like just off slide. How cool is that? And then she has like Creative Commons licensing. Oh my God, you stole my beating heart. That's so awesome. So if you're like, what's he talking about? Well, you know, we'll discuss it later. Anyway, all kinds of promising resources. And your best friend is YouTube. Any tool that you're trying to learn, let's say you're like, oh, I need to learn WeVideo. WeVideo tutorial, right? Do that. There'll be loads of videos and some pro tips for you. First, if it was posted like 3 years ago, it's out of date, right? So look for stuff that's been in the last few years. Maybe do the tools and post in the last year. You can do that as well. But recent ones are better. Look for ones that are shorter, right? For me, like a 6-minute tutorial is a lot better than a 45 one. Just saying, right? Additionally, if it's been seen lots of times, that's probably good news, and not necessarily, but probably good news. So if it's been seen 10,000 times, probably better than if it's been seen 8. And then the huge tip, the Hush Hush 007 James Bond tip, is click on the name of the person who posted it. If you like their explanation, it may be that they posted other videos that you will like as well. And this is a good time to be learning stuff. So YouTube tips for you. How do we find out about future webinars from you, comes the question in the chat. I was forwarded this link for today and followed it because the Spirit moved me to do so. Actually, she wrote it a little differently, but that's good. It's going to be, and by the way, the person that's working with me next week, who knows lots about littles, will still do it across grade levels. We'll still do it with high school, middle school, upper elementary, and littles. I just wanted somebody who's had more experience with littles than me to kind of help me out with this. And that webinars page, when I write you back, it'll be there, right? So I will write everybody who registered, and I'll have the link to it and that kind of thing. You'll be able to register for that. But that webinars page, you know, is the one. So feel free. Let me get that. Actually, let me get. let me do something useful here, by the way, and put that in the chat so that you can bookmark it, because that would be a righteous move on anyone's part. All right, so A reminder that like this whole business of online instruction is not actually all that different from the business of teaching kids normally. You know, what we do is we care, right? We care for our kids, we care for their learning, and we care for ourselves because we don't do a very good job with the first two if we don't do a good job with the third one. At the moment, we should probably add caring for those who are helping us with the kids at home. Big whopping deal, right? So we can make, I mean, genuinely, right? So make sure to do that. Some things that I want to toss in as well. I hope you will sign up for my newsletter. I put out a newsletter every month, and you might be like, oh my God, does he write like he talks? I do, but give it a shot. Just see what you think. And if you like it, all good. If not, you can unsubscribe. No offense taken. Additionally, let me give you these slides. You're like, oh, you're so nice. Happy to help. All right. These slides are available at that link right there. And I would also ask that you give suggestions, right? So suggestions as we go also. We've got the Creative Strength 2020 video contest going. If you're like, oh, that would be a great project for my kids while they're home. Yes, it would. What does it cost to enter? It's free. Oh my God, you're such a nice guy. Happy to help. All right, so feel free to look at that. 90 seconds or less, creatively explain something one might encounter in school. Our service via video contest is going as well. And this would, of course, align nicely with everything I said about stories of service. Shameless plug, I'm an author, right? And so if you are looking for something to read at the moment, I would encourage you to give my book, Making Your Teaching Something Special, you know, a thing. Oh, that is so not what I meant. Let's see, boom, 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 boom. What it is, it's 50 pieces of advice in very short chapters, design, improve, I'll just put point, to make you better at what you do. It's divided into 5 sections, or like rapport with kids, assignments and assessments, delivery, let's see, professionalism and collegiality, and logistics. And if you and your colleagues right now are like, we need a book study about how to get better as teachers. Because remember, we're not just trying to do what we do online. We're trying to get better at what we do, period. If we go through the period we're going through right now and get to the other end of it, we've got like 20 more like possibilities in our tool belt for how to make things happen for kids, all the better. And if you guys do a book study on this, you let me know. I'll do a video conference with you for free just to encourage you. You're buying books, it's great. And by the way, proceeds from the book help my little nonprofit. Good stuff, huh? All right, what else? Third book came out in December, Technology, Teamwork, and Excellence. This is a book for leaders, another one built around the idea of shorter chapters to be able to try things as you go. From the National Catholic Education Association, NCEA, thank you very much. Feel free to share that with people you know as well, now that you've got the slides, if you follow that. John, you've already got my book. That's because you are a wonderful human being, and that's good karma for a long, long time to come. If you have questions, feel free to toss this in. And I see you guys saying, I don't see the ellipsis to save the chat. Help? So if you look in the chat and you look where you type your messages to the right, there may be a square with like rounded edges. And you click on that, that's where you save it. All right. If that's what you do, then great. If you're like, I don't see that, you may be on like an iPad or something and it's just different. But stay in touch. I will be happy to send you the chat, right? Just let me know. I'm happy to help. You're such a nice guy. All right, all good. So there is that. And then here is the finishing info. So loads of resources, tinyurl.com/rh-online20. Webinars and recordings, tinyurl.com/rh-webinars20. And in addition, guys, this is a huge, huge announcement right here. In addition to the thing we're doing next Wednesday, Richard and I are going to like start a webinar next Friday, which we haven't like settled completely on the title yet, but it's like 2 EdTech guys giving advice, right? And we will take your questions. We'll throw out a couple of cool things, and the idea is to just give you something fun to work with as you get to the end of another week of like, oh my God, I'm an online teacher now. So I hope you will join in. That would be nothing but fun. Melinda, I see that you say in the chat, send me the chat. I'll try, but the best thing to do would be to email, because I'm one of those people that, as you can tell from my speech patterns, I'm going about 90 miles per hour on the shoulder of the road right now. So if you would, just send me an email, rh@nextvista.org, and just say, hey, please send that chat. That could be like the entire message, and that would be just fine. Let me get my email in the chat for you, because that would actually help move things along. Nextvista.org. Wham. All right. Last thing I want you to do. All right. So if you would, in the chat, tell me 1 to 10. 10, this was the most useful thing you've ever experienced in your entire life, which means they're probably not going to get any 10s, and that's fine. Right? 1 is like, what an incredible waste of time this was. Where are you on today's webinar? To get better at what I do, I need to have a good sense. Is this working for people? Are you kind of in that space of like, well, you know, useful? And be honest, right? You know, just don't grade inflate me, right? You know, if you're like, 3, maybe, you know, I mean, toss in a 3, totally fine. I'm not going to lose sleep. But what I want is to just kind of get better at what I do. So your suggestions are welcome. Feel free to send those my way via email. I would love your suggestions about how to make this kind of thing better. All right, lots of good numbers coming through. You might be like, well, I was going to put 2, but I thought like that would be a downer. You know, email it to me if you don't want to do that, fine. But it's okay. It really is okay. If we're all kind of in that space, every time we finish a lesson, we look at our kids and say, how was it? You know, and we can get feedback from them. We're going to get better as teachers a lot more quickly than if we don't. And that's in the just saying department. A little more coffee and pep things up. Yeah, right. Very nice. So getting some emojis in there, that's actually the cool trick for being had problems logging into the building at the beginning. Oh, sorry. Well, it will be recorded. It will be recorded, and you will get the link, right? And if you have any questions about any of this, just email me, and that'll be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm about to stop the recording. I will stay on for a few minutes, and happy to answer some questions if you got them. But do watch sometime in the next few days at the latest. You will get an email from me that says, here's the recording and the info, and I am happy to help. So with that, if you've been watching this recording, I hope you have learned something good, and we'll see you hopefully next week.